Every civilization depends on one invisible system. Until one day, it stops. Nord Stream exploded beneath the Baltic Sea. The world finally saw how exposed it was. The average modern city has 3 days of fuel. 3 days, then collapse begins. Hackers shut down America's biggest fuel artery. One stolen password was enough to cripple the system. Germany built an LNG terminal in 194 days. That is panic disguised as engineering, a frantic push for energy. While the West argued China built routes, reserves, and control. Now Beijing sits in the center of the energy web, global dominance. In Nigeria, attacks happen almost every week, a cycle of violence. The pipeline meant to lift a nation is poisoning it. Contamination. Even in war, gas kept flowing through Ukraine, a fragile truce. Energy became the strangest truce in modern history. Gas still flows. One militia disrupted global energy trade, a strategic pivot. Tankers rerouted, costs surged, the whole world felt it instantly. Germany built its economy on cheap Russian gas, a fatal error. When that gas vanished, the engine of Europe started choking. BASF. Australia keeps Asia powered with LNG exports. But at home, it still struggles to keep enough gas. In 90 minutes, 5% of global oil supply was knocked offline. Cheap drones changed energy warfare forever. Pakistan was outbid for LNG. This is what energy inequality looks like in real time. It will use code. The next war is digital. The next great pipeline attack may not use explosives. Texas froze and the grid collapsed. People died in the richest country on Earth because the system failed. The grid was pushed to its breaking point. People died in the richest country on Earth because the system failed. Taiwan imports almost all of its energy, a critical choke point. A blockade would not just isolate it, it would suffocate it. Isolation. Hydrogen is sold as the fuel of the transition, the future fuel. But moving it safely will cost more than people admit. Safety tests. Technology is fighting back. Artificial intelligence is now the front line of defense. The invisible pipeline is finally getting a nervous system, a global view of every pulse and pressure change. For the first time, renewable power can be stored at grid scale, a new era of energy resilience. The pipeline's monopoly is starting to crack. Decentralized power is becoming the new standard. The pipeline of the future will monitor itself, autonomous eyes never sleeping. The silent pipeline is finding its voice, a world powered by code and commitment. Every civilization on Earth depends on one invisible system. It runs beneath oceans, it crosses mountains, it never stops. Until one day, it does. This is the story of the pipeline the world forgot to protect. Right now, 80% of the world's energy is moved through pipelines. Millions of kilometers, buried, pressurized, invisible. If they fail, hospitals lose power, food rots, economies collapse. We built the most fragile system in human history and called it progress. In 2022, the world watched in stunned silence. Explosions ripped through the Nord Stream pipeline beneath the Baltic Sea. No warning, no explanation, billions in infrastructure destroyed overnight. The question wasn't only who did it, it was how exposed were we? Governments had known the risk for decades. Pipeline corridors cross conflict zones, disputed territory, open ocean. They are defended by satellites and soldiers, and still, they break. Because the enemy isn't always a missile, sometimes it's silence. What does a world without energy look like in the first 72 hours? Pumps go dry, heating dies, supply chains break. The average modern city has 3 days of fuel reserves. Just 3 days. 50 years ago, the world had its first warning. The 1973 oil shock proved energy could be weaponized. Governments promised to diversify, to build reserves, to reduce dependence. Most nations simply did not follow through on their energy security promises. Climate change isn't just melting ice, it's destabilizing the ground beneath pipelines built for a colder world. Permafrost supports thousands of miles of energy infrastructure in the Arctic. When the ground moves, so does everything we built on it. 30% of the world's oil passes through a waterway 33 kilometers wide, the Strait of Hormuz, the most strategically vital choke point on Earth. One conflict, one mine, one blocked tanker, and the global economy trembles. Beneath the South China Sea lie some of the world's most contested energy resources. Multiple nations claim the same seabed, the same pipelines. The tension here isn't just geopolitical, it's existential. Control the pipeline and you control the nation above it. The BTC pipeline crosses 3 countries, a war zone, and an earthquake fault. It carries 1 million barrels of oil per day. It has been bombed, hacked, and sabotaged. And it keeps running, barely. In 2021, hackers shut down the Colonial Pipeline, America's most important fuel artery. They used a single stolen password. For 6 days, gas stations ran dry across the eastern United States. The most powerful nation on Earth, brought to its knees by a phishing email. Winter 2022, Europe faced the unthinkable. Russian gas gone, storage reserves falling. Nations that swore off coal relit their furnaces. The energy transition had one fatal assumption, that the supply would always come. Renewables were supposed to save us from this dependency. And they will, but not yet, not fast enough. The world needs 20 more years of pipeline infrastructure to bridge the gap. 20 years we may not have. Much of the world's pipeline infrastructure is aging, built in the 1950s and 60s, designed for 30 years of service. Many are now in their 7th decade, well past design life. We are running global civilization on infrastructure that was supposed to be retired decades ago. Russia controls the largest pipeline network in the world, spanning 11 time zones, through conditions that defy human endurance. For decades, Europe's warmth depended on Moscow's willingness to keep it flowing. That agreement is now shattered. When Russian gas stopped flowing, the world turned to Qatar and the United States. LNG, liquefied natural gas, became the world's emergency answer. But LNG is expensive. It requires special ships, special terminals. Most of Europe had none of the infrastructure needed. Germany built an LNG terminal in record time, 194 days. What normally takes a decade, built in half a year. That's what panic looks like dressed up as engineering. But even then, it wasn't enough. Africa holds the next trillion-dollar energy reserves. But getting that oil to market requires pipelines through some of the most difficult terrain on Earth. Through rainforests, through communities, through conflict. The fight for Africa's energy future has already begun. America became the world's largest oil producer almost overnight. The shale revolution rewrote the global energy map. But shale requires massive pipeline build-out, and pipelines require permits, politics, and years. America is producing more oil than ever, and struggling to move it. Every pipeline now faces a new battlefield, the courtroom. Environmental law has become the most effective anti-pipeline weapon in history. And while the legal battles play out over years, the energy shortfall grows. The world doesn't run on good intentions, it runs on pressure. The Caspian Sea region sits on the third largest oil reserves on Earth. Getting that oil out requires crossing Russia, Iran, or both. For decades, Western energy companies played geopolitical chess here. Now the chessboard has caught fire. China has spent 2 decades quietly building energy independence. Strategic reserves, alternative routes, deep sea ports. While the West argued about pipelines, China built them. Now Beijing sits at the center of a new energy web, and it's pulling strings. Iran holds the world's second-largest natural gas reserves. But sanctions have locked those reserves out of the global market for decades. As energy demand explodes, the pressure to unlock Iranian supply is growing. The question is, at what political price? Beneath the eastern Mediterranean lies one of the world's newest major gas frontiers. Israel, Cyprus, Egypt, all sitting on massive offshore reserves. But extracting and moving that gas requires pipelines through one of the world's most unstable regions. Energy and geopolitics have never been more tangled. As ice retreats, the Arctic is opening for pipelines, for shipping, for military bases. Russia, Norway, Canada, and the United States are all racing to claim Arctic energy. The new Cold War isn't just ideological. It's about what lies beneath the ice. In Nigeria, pipeline attacks happen almost weekly. Criminal gangs, militants, communities demanding compensation. 40,000 barrels of oil spilled in 2023 alone, just in the Niger Delta. The pipeline that was supposed to lift Africa is poisoning it. Venezuela sits on the world's largest proven oil reserves, but its pipeline network is collapsing, its refineries in ruin. A nation that once powered Latin America, now unable to fuel its own vehicles. This is what energy infrastructure failure looks like from the inside. When the Ever Given blocked the Suez Canal for 6 days in 2021, global trade seized, energy markets spiked, one ship, 193 meters of steel, 6 days, $9 billion per day in delayed trade. The world had a panic attack. The energy transition is real, it is necessary, it is happening, but it is slower than the crisis demands. Wind turbines need 18 months to build. Batteries still can't store a winter's energy. The pipeline isn't going away anytime soon because the alternative isn't ready. Western intelligence agencies now rank pipeline infrastructure as a top sabotage target. Not because it's vulnerable to missiles, but because it's unmonitored, underwater, and nearly impossible to defend. The most dangerous threats to energy security aren't visible from space. Ukraine has been Europe's gas transit corridor for 40 years. Even in the middle of a war, gas flowed through Ukrainian pipes. Because Europe needed it, Russia needed the money. Neither could stop. Energy is the strangest truce in modern history. Mozambique sits on East Africa's largest natural gas discovery. French, American, and Asian energy giants are all racing for a piece. But the gas fields are in the middle of an active jihadist insurgency. The most valuable energy prize in Africa, surrounded by war. Singapore is the quiet hub of Asian energy. Half of the world's oil passes through the Malacca Strait next to it. This tiny city-state sets energy prices that ripple through every economy on Earth. When it's disrupted, the whole world feels it within hours. When energy infrastructure fails, and it rarely fails quietly, explosions, fires, contamination, cascading blackouts, the bigger the infrastructure, the bigger the failure. And the world's infrastructure has never been bigger. Right now, the pipeline is running. The lights are on, the fuel is flowing, the pressure is holding, but for how long? The silent pipeline is the most important thing in the world, and almost no one is watching it. There are 6 maritime choke points that carry over half the world's oil: Hormuz, Malacca, Suez, Bab el-Mandeb, Bosphorus, the Danish Straits. Block any one of them for 2 weeks. And 3 continents face an energy crisis. In 2024, Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping lanes changed everything. Energy tankers rerouted around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 10 days to each journey. Insurance costs tripled, fuel costs spiked globally. One militia, no air force, no navy, disrupted global energy trade. One militia, no air force, no navy, disrupted global energy trade. Druzhba, the Russian word for friendship. It's the world's longest oil pipeline network, 4,000 kilometers. For 60 years, it has carried Russian oil into the heart of Europe. And the strategic friendship finally ended in 2022. The pipeline did not. Hungary refused to join the pipeline embargo. Geographically landlocked, it had no choice. While Brussels pushed sanctions, Budapest negotiated privately with Moscow. This is how energy divides allies. For many, it was a choice of Druzhba or nothing. The EastMed pipeline was designed to bring Israeli gas to Europe. Avoiding Russia, avoiding Turkey, changing Mediterranean power dynamics forever. The US pulled its support, the project stalled. Energy geopolitics killed a pipeline before the first pipe was laid. TAP, the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, was Europe's answer to Russian dependence. Azerbaijani gas, through Turkey, through Albania, into Italy. Built in a decade at a cost of $45 billion, it now carries less than 5% of what Europe needs. A new strategic corridor for the Mediterranean. Germany built its economy on cheap Russian gas, not as a strategic choice, as a business model. When that gas disappeared, it wasn't just homes that went cold. It was the industrial engine of the largest economy in Europe. The hidden cost of a failed strategy? Britain was once self-sufficient in North Sea oil and gas. That era ended. The fields are now declining. The UK now imports half its energy, through pipelines it doesn't control. The island that built an empire on coal, now dependent on other nations to stay warm? A fragile bridge to a green future. Italy depends heavily on Algerian gas flowing under the Mediterranean. Algeria is politically unstable. And the pipeline crosses one of the world's most contested stretches of open water. Southern Europe's energy security hangs on Saharan politics. The fire that powers the north. India is building one of the world's fastest expanding gas networks, 1.4 billion people, a growing middle class. India needs pipelines, but refuses to depend on any single supplier. The world's largest democracy is playing every side in the energy war. Demand that doubles every decade. When Russia lost Europe as a customer, it pivoted east. Russia now pumps gas directly into the Chinese heartland. The power of Siberia pipeline, designed in a decade, built in less. The energy relationship that reshaped global geopolitics was cemented with a single pipe, a strategic pivot to the east. Beneath the Pacific lie cables and pipelines connecting the most dynamic economies on Earth. Most have never been inspected. Many are uncharted, a single submarine earthquake in the wrong location. And communications, data, and energy for hundreds of millions go dark. The hidden veins of the global economy. Japan and South Korea import nearly 100% of their energy. No oil, no gas, just ships, just pipelines from elsewhere. They are the most energy-vulnerable major economies on Earth. And they sit next to a rising power. Energy security is a matter of survival. Energy vulnerability is often disguised as maritime efficiency. Australia is now the world's largest LNG exporter. It sends the majority to Japan, China, and South Korea. But Australia's own domestic gas market is often in shortage. The nation that keeps Asia warm can barely keep itself powered. Industrial power in a remote wilderness. The Keystone XL pipeline was canceled after a decade of political battles. The oil it would have carried still needs to move. Now it goes by rail. Slower, more expensive, and more dangerous. Political decisions have energy consequences that last for generations. A clash of ideologies on the border. Energy trapped in the sand. Pipeline theft, called bunkering, costs Nigeria $3 billion a year. Organized criminal networks tap pipelines with industrial equipment. The stolen oil funds militias and bribes officials. And the pipeline that's supposed to fund Africa's most populous nation bleeds dry. The constant battle for sovereignty. The cost of corruption and smoke. The Kirkuk-Ceyhan pipeline has been bombed more than 40 times. Kurdish separatists, ISIS, rival factions all have targeted it. Yet it remains the primary export route for Iraqi Kurdistan, because the oil must flow, even when the bullets do too. Guarding the lifeblood of the region, it is a clear example of energy security placed above regional ideology. The Bosphorus is 700 meters wide at its narrowest point. Over 50,000 vessels pass through it annually. One collision, one fire, one sinking, and Black Sea oil exports, serving Southern Europe, stop immediately. It remains a narrow but vital artery for global energy. Witness the sheer beauty of a strategic bottleneck. Iran built a pipeline to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. If the strait is ever closed, Iran can still export from the Arabian Sea. That single infrastructure decision changed the calculus for every military planner in the region. Control of the choke point, no longer the only play. This was a strategic move made in the geopolitical shadows. It is another way of bypassing the strategic bottleneck. Energy extraction in conflict zones always leaves victims behind. Communities displaced, environments contaminated, promises broken. The pipeline brings wealth, just never to the people who lived above it. This is the unwritten cost of energy security. Maintaining global energy security comes at a high price. These are the forgotten ghosts of human progress. In 2019, drone strikes hit the Abqaiq facility, the heart of Saudi Arabia's oil processing. In 90 minutes, 5% of global oil supply was knocked offline. The attackers used consumer-grade drones that cost less than a car. The era of cheap, asymmetric pipeline warfare had begun. Repaired, yet the memory of vulnerability remains forever. The fragility of the heart? The United States has spent trillions guarding other nations' pipelines, 7 fleets, dozens of bases, thousands of lives. The price of energy security has never appeared in the electricity bill. It's hidden in the defense budget and in the graves of soldiers. Constant guardians watching from the high desert sky, a global shield for local energy. The energy transition isn't a revolution, it's a negotiation between the old infrastructure we depend on and the new one we're building. For at least the next 2 decades, we need both. The pipeline and the windmill are not enemies, they're partners in an imperfect world. Integrating the old and the new into the future, building a stable bridge to a more balanced world. When supply falls short, nations enter a bidding war for energy. The wealthy win, the poor freeze. In 2022, European nations outbid Pakistan and Bangladesh for LNG. Those nations went dark. Decisions made in the light affecting those in the dark. The high cost of survival? Pakistan lost the LNG it needed in the winter of 2022, outbid by Europe. 16 million people in rolling 12-hour blackouts. Factories shut, hospitals strained. This is what energy inequality looks like in real time. A divided world 1 volt at a time. Bangladesh makes clothes for the world's luxury brands, but it can't afford the energy to power the factories. The LNG that could have kept the lights on all went to Europe. Global energy security is not a neutral concept. It depends on who you are. Paper promises in a powerless world? The silence of an empty terminal. Africa is leapfrogging the pipeline era. Just as mobile phones bypass landlines, solar is bypassing the grid. 600 million people without electricity are getting their first power from the sun. Not from a pipeline, not from a politician, from the sky. Young engineers designing their own path to independence. Directly capturing the power sent down from the heavens? Norway is the energy saint of Europe, the world's most successful sovereign wealth fund, built on North Sea oil and gas. Ironically, Norway itself runs on hydropower and exports its fossil fuels to others. The cleanest country in Europe earns its money selling fuel. Bangladesh makes clothes for the world's luxury brands, but it can't afford the energy to power the factories. The golden standard of energy management. Central Africa is an energy paradox, home to some of the world's richest reserves, yet some of its poorest populations. Oil flows out in pipelines. Poverty stays behind. This is the original sin of the global energy system, slicing through history for the future's fuel. Norway is the energy saint of Europe, the world's most successful sovereign wealth fund, built on North Sea oil and gas. The United States became the world's largest LNG exporter. Shale gas, once a domestic blessing, is now a geopolitical tool. American LNG now flows to Europe, Japan, South Korea, and India. The shale revolution didn't just change American energy, it rewrote the map. Rewriting the global energy order, the new energy superpower is here. China is building pipelines beyond its borders, into Pakistan, Myanmar, and Central Asia. This isn't just infrastructure, it's strategic reach. Energy pipelines are the modern equivalent of imperial roads. They bind nations to Beijing in ways that armies never could. Architects of a new empire, carving power through the stone. Russia's Yamal Peninsula holds the most gas in the world. Even under crippling sanctions, production barely slowed. Because China, India, and Turkey kept buying, the West sanctioned Russia's pipeline. The world found another way to pay for it. The cold, hard reality of demand, Turkey has transformed itself into Europe's energy gateway. Turkstream, TAP, TANAP, Blue Stream. More major pipelines cross Turkish territory than any other country outside Russia. Erdogan understood early what others learned too late. Pipelines are power, the gateway that controls the flow. The geometric center of power. Israel discovered offshore gas that could transform the Middle East's energy map. Gas previously from hostile states, now from new partners. Energy created alliances where politics had failed for 70 years. The pipeline did what diplomats could not. Allies forged in fuel and pressure, redrawing the maps of the Levant. Beneath the South China Sea lies one of the great unresolved energy conflicts. Vietnam, Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, China all claim the same seafloor. The next war in Asia won't begin over ideology. It will begin over a pipeline route, the seafloor as a battlefield. Watchers over the deep. Strategic surveillance in a contested ocean. The friction of energy demand, confrontation on the waves. The next great pipeline attack will not use explosives. It will use code, a single line of malicious software, inserted through a supply chain vulnerability, and the pipeline stops, silently, invisibly, completely. Nation-state hackers have already penetrated U.S. energy infrastructure, not to turn off the lights, to sit inside, to wait. The attack hasn't happened yet, because waiting serves the strategy better. The most dangerous weapon in the world is patience. Western intelligence has documented Russian plans to target European energy infrastructure. Not in wartime, now, in peacetime. Sabotage cells pre-positioned near pipeline compressor stations. Cyber weapons embedded in industrial control systems. The Nord Stream investigation became the most consequential unsolved crime in energy history. 3 years later, no official culprit, but the lesson was clear. Critical infrastructure beneath international waters belongs to no one, and is protected by no one. Chinese research vessels have been mapping the Pacific seabed in extraordinary detail, including the routes of undersea power cables, internet cables, and oil pipelines. Defensive mapping or pre-strike reconnaissance? The answer depends on what happens next. In February 2021, Texas froze. The energy grid collapsed. 246 people died. Pipelines froze because they weren't weatherized for extreme cold. In the wealthiest country on Earth, people died of cold because energy infrastructure failed. Climate change isn't a future threat to energy infrastructure, it's a present one. Hurricane Ida knocked out more Gulf of Mexico oil production than any storm in history. The pipeline designed for yesterday's climate is failing in today's weather. Water and energy are inseparable. Most power plants need enormous quantities of water for cooling. As droughts intensify, power plants must reduce output or shut down. Climate change is weaponizing water scarcity against energy security. The winter of 2022-23 was supposed to break Europe. Storage fell to 16% in some countries. Mandatory energy rationing was drafted, ready to be deployed. It was a warm winter that saved them. Not strategy, not policy, weather. When conflict erupted in October 2023, Israel shut down the Tamar gas field immediately. A precaution, but one that sent energy prices across the region surging. Even a temporary shutdown of one platform changes the energy math for millions. Gas fields in conflict zones are targets, and everyone knows it. During the Nagorno-Karabakh War of 2020, the BTC pipeline remained untouched, because both sides knew who would suffer if it stopped. The pipeline had become too important to destroy. That's not security. That's deterrence by economic dependency. After Nord Stream, NATO created a pipeline protection task force, naval drones, subsea sensors, rapid response protocols. But the North Sea alone has 50,000 kilometers of pipeline. Protecting all of it is mathematically impossible. The Houthis weaponized the Red Sea with a force that cost almost nothing. Drones, missiles, speedboats, against a $100 billion global shipping lane. Every major shipping company rerouted away from the Suez Canal. Global trade changed course because of one determined militia. Taiwan imports 97% of its energy. All of it comes through sea lanes that pass near China's military forces. A blockade of Taiwan isn't just a political act, it's an energy death sentence. The island that makes the world's semiconductors can't power itself without Beijing's permission. The United States promised to replace Russian gas with American LNG. New terminals were approved, new ships were ordered, contracts were signed, but these projects take 5 to 10 years. The crisis was now. The solution was a decade away. China controls 80% of global solar panel manufacturing, 80% of rare earths for wind turbines and batteries. As the world rushes to escape dependence on Russian gas, it is running directly into Chinese mineral dependence. We are trading one energy vulnerability for another. Every electric vehicle battery contains cobalt from the Congo, extracted largely by hand, often by children. The clean energy revolution runs on the dirtiest supply chains. The pipeline may change, but the exploitation of the powerless does not. The lithium triangle in South America holds 60% of the world's lithium. It is the oil of the 21st century, essential for every battery on Earth. Chile is nationalizing it. Bolivia is restricting it. Argentina is negotiating. The new energy scramble looks exactly like the old one. North Sea pipelines are among the oldest in continuous operation. Many are beyond their original design life by 20 or 30 years. Decommissioning is expensive, so extensions are granted. Every extension is a gamble on infrastructure that was already betting against the clock. Energy prices became the political crisis of the decade. Governments fell, subsidies ballooned, social contracts cracked. When energy is unaffordable, democracy becomes unstable. The pipeline doesn't just carry gas, it carries political legitimacy. In the developing world, energy insecurity is not a crisis. It's a constant. Rolling blackouts, generator dependency, fuel shortages. 2 billion people still lack reliable access to electricity. And the global energy system, designed for the wealthy and was never built for them. Africa relies heavily on hydropower, and hydropower requires rain. As climate patterns destabilize, droughts eliminate entire seasons of electricity generation. East Africa lost 40% of its hydroelectric capacity in the 2022 drought. Energy poverty and climate change are the same crisis wearing different names. Pipeline accidents kill hundreds of people every year, not from sabotage, from age, from maintenance neglect, from cutting corners. In 2022, more people died in pipeline accidents than in all pipeline terrorist attacks combined. The most dangerous enemy of the pipeline isn't a geopolitical rival, it's budget cuts. Hydrogen is being called the fuel of the energy transition. Clean, storable, pipeable. But hydrogen is corrosive. It embrittles steel pipelines. Every existing gas pipeline would need to be replaced or relined to carry it safely. The solution costs more than the problem. California sits on 15,000 kilometers of pipeline. It also sits on the San Andreas Fault. A major earthquake in the wrong location could rupture multiple pipelines simultaneously. The energy model built for yesterday's geology is running out of geological luck. Pipelines and rainforests are in permanent conflict. Every energy corridor requires deforestation, community displacement, ecological damage. In Brazil, the Amazon is being sold for pipeline access. The planet's lungs are being traded for the planet's fuel. France made a different choice in the 1970s. Nuclear power, 70% of its electricity. No gas pipelines needed. When the energy crisis hit Europe, France barely noticed. The country that the world called backward for its nuclear addiction was the only one that was energy secure. Small modular reactors could power communities without any pipeline at all. Compact, safe, factory-built, deployable anywhere. Nations that depended on distant pipelines could become energy independent within a decade. The pipeline's greatest competitor may not be wind, it may be the atom. Technology is fighting back. AI systems now monitor pipeline pressure variations in real time, detecting failures before they happen. Autonomous drones inspect thousands of kilometers per day. The invisible pipeline is getting a nervous system, and it's changing the game. Pipelines cross borders that don't agree on anything else. They require international law, treaty frameworks, and decades of diplomatic patience. In an era of rising nationalism, the global pipeline web is under its deepest political stress in 50 years. The pipe doesn't care about borders, politicians do. As Greenland's ice retreats, its energy reserves become accessible. Rare earths, oil, gas, enormous quantities. The United States wants it. Denmark wants control. And Greenland's 57,000 people want independence and a piece of the wealth below their feet. America's freshwater supply crosses hundreds of oil and gas pipelines. The Dakota Access Pipeline passes beneath Lake Oahe, a drinking water source for millions. A single rupture, an undetected leak, and the Missouri River becomes a disaster zone. Energy security and water security cannot be separated. Decommissioned pipelines are a growing environmental crisis. Thousands of miles of abandoned steel, rusting, leaching, nobody's responsibility. The pipelines that powered the last century are poisoning the soil for the next. The energy industry has perfected profit, but never mastered cleanup. Mexican cartels steal billions of dollars worth of fuel from Pemex pipelines annually. Not small-scale theft, industrial-scale criminal pipeline networks, running parallel to the official one. Mexico's energy crisis isn't just about infrastructure, it's about sovereignty. The global energy market is running at its limits. Tankers backlogged, terminals at capacity, storage full or empty, never balanced. The system was designed for predictable demand and stable supply. We no longer have either. The world's leaders finally admitted what analysts had been saying for 20 years. Energy security cannot be left to markets alone. It cannot be left to individual nations. It requires a global architecture and the will to build it. For the first time, the US and Europe are discussing a shared electricity grid. Transatlantic power cables, green energy shared across oceans. It's not science fiction. The cable technology exists. What's missing is the political will and a crisis large enough to create it. The pipeline is not dying, it is transforming. The same steel corridors that carried natural gas for a century are being repurposed to carry hydrogen, the infrastructure of the past, becoming the infrastructure of the future. In Africa, the pipeline era may never fully arrive, and that might be the best outcome for the continent. Distributed solar, batteries, and mini-grids are creating energy independence at the village level. No pipeline means no choke point. No choke point means no vulnerability. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve exists for exactly this moment. 700 million barrels of oil, underground, ready for crisis. But it was drawn down to historic lows in 2022 and never fully refilled. The emergency reserve for the world's biggest economy is not ready for another emergency. After Nord Stream, NATO committed to protecting critical undersea infrastructure. New doctrine, new assets, new agreements. Whether it's enough, no one can say for certain. But the reckoning has at least begun. The battery revolution is changing the calculus. For the first time, renewable energy can be stored at grid scale. The pipeline's most powerful attribute, always-on dispatchable power, is being matched. The era of the monopoly pipeline is ending, not with a bang with a battery. Iceland has no oil, no gas, no coal, but it has the most energy-secure economy in the world. Geothermal energy from the Earth itself, unlimited, uninterruptible, unweaponizable. The answer was under our feet the entire time. The Sahara receives more solar energy in one day than all of humanity uses in a year. Morocco is turning that into a strategic asset, exporting solar power to Europe. The energy corridor of the future doesn't carry oil. It carries electrons, and it runs on the sun. The North Sea is becoming the solar panel of Europe, not with oil platforms, with wind turbines and undersea cables. 7 nations are building a shared offshore grid. The pipeline's successor is being constructed above the same water that holds the pipeline's graves. The most powerful solution to pipeline dependence isn't a new pipeline, it's using less energy, transforming how we heat and power our homes. Energy efficiency can eliminate more demand than any pipeline can supply. The most underrated energy technology ever invented is insulation. Carbon capture may allow fossil fuel pipelines to keep running cleanly. Capture the emissions, store them underground, net zero, without stopping the flow. It's controversial, expensive, and perhaps necessary, because the world cannot stop the pipeline overnight, even if it wants to. Nuclear fusion could eliminate the pipeline dependency entirely. Unlimited clean energy from hydrogen, from water. For 60 years, fusion has been 20 years away. Now, it might actually be less than 20 years away. The most surprising energy transition is happening in the oil states themselves. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, all investing massively in renewables. Not because they've stopped believing in oil, but because they're smart enough to see what comes next. The nations that built their wealth on the pipeline are building the world that replaces it. Energy security is not just about geopolitics and pipelines. It is about a child doing homework after dark. It is about a mother accessing a hospital with power. Energy security is human security, and it belongs to everyone. The International Energy Agency says the world needs $4 trillion a year in clean energy investment. Every year until 2050. We are currently spending about half of that. The math doesn't lie, and the pipeline won't wait. The oil majors are reinventing themselves, slowly, reluctantly, but undeniably. BP, Shell, Total Energies, all pivoting toward clean energy. Not because it's right, because it's profitable. And when profit points toward the transition accelerates. The solution to fragile pipelines is not fewer pipelines. It is more connections, more redundancy, more shared infrastructure, an energy internet where no single node is critical, where the failure of one pipeline redirects flow through 10 others. The people who built the pipeline can build the transition. The skills are the same, the need is the same. A welder is a welder, whether the pipe carries gas or hydrogen. The energy transition doesn't have to leave anyone behind, it just has to make the choice to include them. By 2030, the first major hydrogen pipelines will be operational, not replacing the gas network, extending it. Rotterdam is positioning itself as the hydrogen capital of the world. The city that was built on oil is rewriting its story. For the first time, small island nations are energy independent. No tanker deliveries, no diesel generators, no pipeline blackmail. Just the sun, just the wind, just the ocean. Energy sovereignty, not as a privilege, but as a right. Smart grids are changing the nature of energy demand itself. Buildings that optimize their own consumption. Factories that shift load automatically. Cities that bend their demand to match available supply. Intelligence is becoming the most powerful energy technology ever invented. Africa doesn't have to repeat the West's mistakes. It can build the next energy system, not the last one. An integrated African power grid connecting solar, hydro, wind, and yes, gas pipelines. The continent that was last to benefit from the old energy economy can be first to lead the new one. The pipeline of the future will monitor itself, repair itself, reroute itself. AI, robotics, and real-time sensing are transforming the most analog infrastructure on Earth. The silent pipeline is finding its voice. The dream is a global energy security architecture, where pipeline failures trigger automatic rerouting across borders, where cyberattacks are met with immediate multinational response, where energy is a shared security, not a competitive weapon. In the end, the pipeline always gets rebuilt, because humanity always chooses warmth over ideology. Light over darkness, life over destruction. The pipeline survives every war because it is the infrastructure of civilization itself. The transition is not an event, it is a process. Measured in decades, in trillions of dollars, in millions of decisions. Every old platform decommissioned, every new turbine installed, the world slowly, imperfectly, but undeniably rewiring itself. Synthetic fuels could decarbonize everything that can't be electrified. Ships, aircraft, industrial heat, made from captured carbon and renewable hydrogen using the same pipelines. The pipeline may outlast oil, carrying the fuel that replaces it. The generation building the energy transition wasn't born when Nord Stream was laid. They grew up with smartphones and will build the grid with algorithms. They understand both the pipeline and its replacement, and they are not afraid of either. On the floor of the Baltic Sea lie the shattered remnants of Nord Stream, once the artery of European energy, now a cautionary ruin. Above it, wind turbines are rising. The sea that swallowed the pipeline is giving birth to its replacement. This is what energy security looks like when we get it right. A child with light, a city with power. A planet with balance, not dependent on a single pipeline. Resilient, distributed, free. The world's energy map is being redrawn in real time. Old corridors of power losing their grip. New corridors of electrons and hydrogen rising. The silent pipeline is being joined and eventually replaced by something louder, cleaner, and harder to weaponize. This transition will not erase the pipeline workers. It will need them, their knowledge, their toughness, their commitment to keeping things flowing. The energy transition is not a revolution, it is a relay race. The pipeline is not the problem. Dependence without resilience is the problem. Single points of failure in a system that cannot afford to fail. The answer is not less infrastructure, it is smarter infrastructure. The silent pipeline will keep running through wars, through crises, through transitions, because civilization requires it. But the world is learning, at last, that civilization cannot hang by a single thread. The reckoning has come. The work begins now. The energy of the future belongs to all of us.